He goes after Marina, and it gets kind of raw at points. She is unaware that her attacker is Justin at first, so she scratches him with her tail, leaving a red gash. It's not as graphic as Goliath's hand bleeding after he catches a blade with his bare hand in the first episode of Gargoyles, but compared to the tone for the rest of the series, it hits about as hard as that. This episode manages to even have a pretty effective jump scare. Hedwig is all too happy to boast to Marina about what she's done when she makes the scene. Brainwashing somebody and having them fight their allies often makes for effective drama, especially when they are fighting their love interest, like when Queen Barrow brainwashed Tuxedo Mask into hurting Sailor Moon. Watching this arc as a kid was one of the most intense things I had seen on TV, even if Deke heavily censored the final battle where he tries to actually kill her by cutting out scenes of Sailor Moon being electrocuted and choked by Mamoru. Here though, there is no such censorship. The image of Justin wrapping his hands around Marina's throat as she begs him to stop while the Sea Witch just laughs is the most chilling imagery in any version of The Little Mermaid with a happy ending. Before Saban made Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you usually didn't have to worry about them censoring anime too much.
Now, eliminate them.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute!
Don't take it personally. It's simply a matter of policy.
Heck, even after that, when they made their best Power Ranger series, Zeo and In Space, they were actually better than the Sentai they were edited from because, amongst other reasons, they featured disturbing scenes that were nowhere to be found in the original Sentai, like when they took a boring Mega Ranger villain and gave him personality, which resulted in a story where he sacrificed himself to save his adopted daughter when she wanted to turn good, leading to him being captured and lobotomized.
Now say ah!
Man, and when Saban was firing on all cylinders, they refused to hold anything back, and their best series really were something special. Between this episode and all the references to death throughout the series, I could actually see this airing on Toonami if it had about twice as many episodes. That would have been awesome! I can just imagine the promos Moltar would do for the show.
Forget what that other channel would have you believe. We've got the coolest mermaid of them all right here. And a charming prince who can more than keep up with her. Talk about a power couple.
I can't help but wonder if Anselm ever learned that Hedwig was capable of showing such sadistic glee. If he had, I imagine that his dialogue at the end of Be Careful What You Wish would have been more like this.
Seriously, lady, what is wrong with you?
This episode features all the animal companions helping in whatever way they can. Bobo uncovers Hedwig's evil plot. Winnie desperately tries to aid Marina in her battle against Justin, and Ridley wants to help because he feels that this is all his fault and none of this would have happened if he hadn't have dropped the potion. But it's not all doom and gloom here. This episode has a very sweet conclusion where Marina breaks the spell by kissing Justin. You know what they say, sometimes you gotta kiss the girl and other times the girl's gotta kiss you. Marina takes Justin back to the surface and the two of them hug as Winnie drops a flower crown she made for Marina right on her head. And the last thing we see is Justin and Marina together, which is the perfect image to close out on. This episode really went above and beyond what most people would expect from this series, even for fans like myself. And that is why it is my personal #1 favorite episode of Saban's Adventures of the Little Mermaid.
You know, I can't remember a thing about turning into a horrible monster.
Then I guess you can't remember anything about how the horrible spell was broken?
Well, I suppose it had something to do with that ball of light.
It was a different sort of magic.
I had no idea that it might have been something else. Can you tell me what it was?
Maybe later.
This episode was so good it should have been the series finale. With that said, what about the actual final episode? Does Marina become fully human? Does Justin return the golden tablet to the mer people? Do the heroes defeat Hedwig for good? Does Chauncey get a girlfriend?
I don't know. There wasn't enough money in the budget for an ending.
That's right. This is one of the very few anime series without an ending, which is just mind-boggling. As a child, I built up the high expectation of anime to have truly final episodes ever since I rented a Gaiking tape with several episodes on it, including a pretty great finale, and rarely was I disappointed. Even the Noozles had a surprisingly hard-hitting finale for such a lighthearted series.
You're very lucky to have had friends like Blinky and Pinky. The pain that you're feeling right now will go away, but the memory in your heart will last a lifetime.
But on the other hand, there have been some really bad endings in anime that taint my opinion of otherwise high-quality series, so I guess no ending is a good ending. At least we didn't get a downer ending where Justin and Marina were forced to part ways, with him marrying Cecily and Marina some merman prince because the last hope of her ever becoming human was gone, but it still stings. You can watch Beauty and the Beast last and it won't change anything. In fact, it makes the series better. The actual final episode, Waste Not, Want Not, is just another pointless attempt to get the golden tablet. I don't dislike it as much as my two least favorite episodes. It is cool seeing Ridley try and help them get it out of a giant clam, but it's easily the third worst episode of the series because it feels like it was phoned in. As if they were short one script, so they rushed out a non-finale for the final episode with a half-hearted discussion about how our heroes will get it someday.
I'm only sorry we didn't manage to get the golden tablet. I know how much it would have meant to you, Marina.
It's all right. Someday we'll find it. And the formula that will make me a human girl. But for now, our love is enough.
For years, I was stuck on the fact that Marina couldn't permanently become human, but while writing this review, I realized that the biggest missed opportunity was in not showing Justin returning the golden tablet to Nestor. That could have been one of the most satisfying moments in any Little Mermaid adaptation. Instead of the Sea King learning that not all humans are bad because a human ended up fixing a mess accidentally caused by the Little Mermaid, here we could have had a human righting the wrong of another human. And if the human who originally stole it turned out to be one of the previous rulers of Braxton, then seeing the current ruler of Gandor give it back would have made it even better.
Oh, I love it! Tis poetry in motion!
Just think about it. Even Coral would have been humbled by that. I get that they didn't want to slam the book too shut on the series in case they got the chance to continue it, but they could have at least ended with Marina and Justin getting the golden tablet. They could have taken it to Anselm, who tells them that some of the ingredients listed on the tablet are rare or will be dangerous to look for. But Marina and Justin don't care because they finally feel closer to their dream. This would end the first season on a very satisfying note while still leaving plenty of room for other plot lines. Besides going on meaningful quest for what they need to give Marina legs and Justin being accepted by all of Marina's family, the writers could have picked up on the plot thread of Anselm promising to free Hedwig from the curse he placed on her if she were to become good again. Perhaps instead of just suddenly changing her ways, a new villain could emerge that was so powerful everybody has to team up to win, and by working with the others, Hedwig reconnects with her good side. I also imagined that Prince Lothar and Cecily would fall in love with each other, and after a couple of villainous team-ups, their romance would make them better people, leading to them apologizing to Justin and Marina for all the trouble they've given them in the past. I know trying to redeem every villain has gotten to be a problem in things recently. Even back in the 90s, you've got stuff like Queen Nihilenya getting pardoned at the beginning of the final season of Sailor Moon, despite turning her entire kingdom into creepy circus freaks just so she could stay beautiful forever. But with this series, I think that it would be warranted. Hedwig's redemption was at least properly foreshadowed. And with the other two, what better way to tie up the loose threads of their stories than by tying them together? As long as Justin is single, Cecily isn't going to stop hounding him unless she were to find another man. And I believe that Prince Lothar could be redeemed through the power of love.
You've got to believe in the power of love.
Saban must have been counting on a second season because there was a surprising amount of merchandise made. But 26 episodes were all the show was ever going to get. Next year, Disney made their own Little Mermaid series, which did so much better in the ratings that it lasted for 3 seasons, crushing all hope of continuing Marina and Justin's story for true fans of the series.
Poor unfortunate souls in pain, in need.
It's similar to what happened when Filmation made an animated sequel to a 70s live-action show they did called Ghostbusters to capitalize on the hit 80s movie and managed to rush it out, which tricked kids into watching it until the cartoon based on the movie dropped and clobbered its competition in the ratings. I wasn't even born when this started, and I still went through that experience picking up 2 VHS tapes of Filmation's Ghostbusters at a thrift store thinking I was getting a cartoon based on the movie, and when I saw this instead, I had never felt so ripped off in my life at that point. At least the experience made me very thankful when Fox Family started airing the Real Ghostbusters years later. I kid you not. The first time I saw the opening when the Real was added to the title, I cheered.
Now that's what I call a happy ending.
Not for everybody.
But while the Real Ghostbusters had markedly better writing than Filmation's Ghostbusters, I always felt that Saban's Little Mermaid show ironically made the Disney one feel more like a knockoff by the simple virtue of not limiting itself with the stories it could tell. I'm curious just how much Disney knew about this series before they made their own. If they knew nothing about the show beyond the simple fact that it existed when they made Ariel's undersea adventures, then that would be very understandable. They were bound to win anyways due to brand recognition, regardless of how they went about it. But I can't help but wonder if they actually watched the series and were like, what's this? A Little Mermaid series that continues the story, gives the prince a lot to do, is written with some respect for the audience's intelligence and targets both demographics by having romance for the girls as well as fantasy, action, and even a bit of horror for the boys. This isn't what kids want. They want a safe prequel series that barely features the prince. Well, thanks Disney. I hate it.
I'm also repelled, repulsed, reviled, and revolted by it. In addition, I loathe and abhor it, not to mention despising and detesting it.
In Disney's defense, I love Saban's Little Mermaid, but it's not one of my all-time favorite animated series. It's also not a Disney killer like Fox's Peter Pan, which is better than Disney's Peter Pan in every way except that the mermaids in the Fox version aren't as pretty as the ones in Disney's. Also, take a look at this brazen concept art where Marina and Justin look a lot like Ariel and Eric. On the one hand, this does show that despite the fact that a lot of the production staff obviously cared about the series, it was initially greenlit as a shameless ripoff, but Saban had the decency to change it, so kudos to them. On the other hand, if everything else remained the same, it would have been hilarious to see that such an obvious copycat was still fundamentally better written than Disney's TV show. But even disregarding all that, Disney has produced many series that are honestly better than Saban's Little Mermaid, especially in the 2010s when they practically ruled television animation. Besides the aforementioned Aladdin, there's also Adventures of the Gummy Bears, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Gargoyles, Gravity Falls, Motor City, the first 3 seasons of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and Disney Television Animation's magnum opus, as well as my favorite animated series of the decade, Wander Over Yonder.
You're the greatest. No, buddy, you're the greatest.
But Saban's Little Mermaid is not here to be judged on whether it is one of the greatest series ever made. The only relevant questions are, does it have any value as an individual series and as a Little Mermaid adaptation? The answer to both of those queries is heck yeah! Saban's Little Mermaid series and Disney's are 2 sides of the same coin. One is a good example of how to do a TV show based on a fairy tale, and the other is not. When I started to watch the 8 episodes I found for this review, I thought that maybe I can try to watch the entire series, but by the 8th episode I said to myself,
how about new?